Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to all of our EAS friends across the country. Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm Robert Wakefield, the host of this show and president of Branch 32. Thank you very much. That's right. All right. We got a great show for you lined up, so stick around and let's go ahead and pour that first cup. You know, banking should be made simple. That's why Ollie, the Nashville Post Office Credit Union's virtual assistant, is here, ready to help 24/7. Need quick answers? Ollie delivers secure, instant solutions right at your fingertips. No wait times, no hassle, just smart banking made easy. Whether you're managing your finances, exploring loan options, or just need guidance, Ollie is always ready to assist, wherever and whenever you need. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our first cup this morning, I wanted to piggyback on episodes 32 and 33. If you haven't listened to those episodes, they're really good. It's about the Telecon Improvement Program, a very important program that all NAPS members need to be aware of. And when I got to putting that together, it immediately brought to mind our guest today, who's been on the show before, and he's got some great insight on all things NAPS. He's the Northeast Region Vice President. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dee Perez. Hello, Dee.
How are you, Robert?
I'm really good. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing as best I can as an active employee, working a tremendous workload, trying to balance it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, good luck to that. I tell you.
Yes.
You've got your hands full. And you've also got your hands full. Congratulations. You're now the Northeast Region VP, and you filled some very big shoes in the recent passing of Tommy Roma.
Yes, Tommy was a legend and a mentor and a friend, and you can never replace a person like that, but you can learn the valuable lessons that he's taught me and others, and use that as a learning guide to move forward and help people.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so I talked to you back at LTS back in April, and I told you then that I wanted to bring you back on the show because of an article that you wrote for the Postal Supervisor magazine for the December 2024 issue. And something jumped off that page that I didn't forget. I said, got to get you on the show to talk about it. So the name of the article was, If You See Disrespect, Say Something. So talk a little bit about the title of this article.
Well, you know, I get a lot of thoughts in my mind. I was thinking about one of my articles, but it was spurred by a conversation that the former Postmaster General Louis DeJoy had while he was addressing the executive board back in October. And I said, wait a minute, the New York City Transit System Authority came out with a phrase due to 9/11 tragedy that if you see something, say something. So with that, I'm thinking about the Postmaster General, and he was talking about, you know, changing the culture of the Postal Service. Mm-hmm. And he went into detail what he was thinking about. I says, we all thought of that. If you're a postal employee, you probably thought of that from day one to the last day you resigned and said to yourself, when is this going to change?
Right.
And it hasn't. So we all can do something about it.
Right.
And my reference to that is I've always been a dignity and respect guy since day one, since my first article. And I push that out there is because nobody should be disrespected or, and not given the dignity, the respect that they deserve as an adult.
Right.
And all too often, our leadership and sometimes our peers get all hooked up with what's going on today and forget about how they should be treating people.
That's
Because
exactly
you'll
right.
get better results when you treat people with dignity and respect and you learn how to talk to them in an appropriate manner.
That's right. And so the article goes on to talk about how that there was a big joint meeting in October of 2024 between branches 100, branch 459, and 164. All those branches had a meeting, and their main complaint to you and Jimmy Warden was what?
The lack of dignity and respect and how they're treated on Zoom meetings, which we all call telecoms, but it's Zoom meetings. And Jimmy told them about the NAPS Teleconference Improvement Monitoring Program that's found on the NAPS website on the forms and documents. And basically what you do is you tell them what happened, who, what, where, and when. And one of the resident officers is supposed to call the district manager and address that issue.
Okay.
With that, it was my turn to speak on it. And I went forward and I said, nobody deserves to be treated without dignity and respect. There's nothing that we do that warrants that type of behavior.
Exactly.
I've been on Zoom meetings and I give the leadership some credit in my area when I'm on Zoom meetings. They're either restrained or they're respectful. However you do it, they do the right thing with me. But I can't be on every Zoom meeting. So the tool that we need to let everybody know is that if you're being disrespected, and I've said this personally to a number of people, on a Zoom meeting in front of your peers, log off. Why? Because that endpool will call you back and say, why'd you log off when you were talking to me? Well, that's your time to shine or stand up for yourself. NAPS will back you up 100% when you stand up for yourself. You tell that person, I don't appreciate being talked about that way. You're not my mother, you're not my father, because that's, to me, that's the only two people who can talk to me that way.
Right.
But so if you make it a point to say, I don't appreciate being talked that way, and I'm not gonna stand for it. If I failed in a program, I didn't make my budget, okay, boss, I can work, let's have a conversation how I can turn it around. But to, disrespect me in front of my peers and yell at me, nobody has that right.
And so this is not only, I thought there was, well, I didn't think this, but I thought that this was a nationwide problem and not just a, Tennessee problem or anything else. This is happening all over the country, isn't it?
Robert, I get phone calls, emails, texts all over the country, from California to Florida to Midwest states, people that I know, and I keep them in confidence. I will not reveal who they are. And it's not the same person over and over again. They've learned to email me, and they know when a situation arises, I'll email them back, and we'll keep it in confidence. And sometimes some of my articles are related to that. And I tell them the same thing. You got to stand up for yourself. NAPS will back you up.
Exactly.
Don't let anybody talk to you that way.
Oh, man. Well,
that's... And Robert, to your point, it is a nationwide issue, not a local issue.
Right. And I don't understand why that managers have to feel like they resort to this kind of behavior, because it can borderline on bullying or any kind of harassment like that, which is against postal policy.
That's correct. And how would you get the best effort from that person if you're constantly beating them down?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I've got to read word for word, because this is what stuck out to me in your article. Are you ready? This is great. You said, I advise the members who have been disrespected, embarrassed, bullied, and belittled in front of their peers on Zoom meetings to log off and leave the meeting. Wow.
Exactly.
And I then told them their IMPU or whoever is acting like a disrespectful child would be calling them. And I think that's true. I think that if you log off the meeting while you're getting chewed out, that's going to be a golden opportunity for them to call as soon as the meeting is over.
You're 100% right. And that's what I tell my members. That's the first indication that you're going to stick up for yourself and you're not going to accept this unprofessional behavior.
Exactly. And so I told my branch this in one of our training sessions, one of our branch meetings, and I told them what you had said. And I also advised them of this. I said, look, when you log off that meeting, and you're expecting that phone call, that is a time for you to compose yourself. This is not a shouting match. You've got to show dignity and respect to your boss that they're not
That's
showing
correct.
you.
Yeah, it's got to be a two-way street, Robert. It can't. It's not a one-way street you travel on where they can yell at you. You have no. Look, there is no more yelling going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They need to respect you, and you need to respect them. You don't have to agree with what's being discussed, but if you're a manager, you're in EAS. The goal is to try to achieve that goal, finish the mission as best you can. They may Monday night quarterback you. Okay, no one's perfect. We made a mistake. Next week will be better. But, the lack of dignity and respect doesn't belong in that conversation.
And the fact that you put in your article, too, that you are to answer the phone and you tell them that you do not appreciate being disrespected in front of your peers, that was a powerful, powerful statement you made right there.
That's the first thing you say right off the bat. You put them on their heels, so they know they can't continue that conversation that way.
That's right. That's right. So tell me, has this program of you telling your members to log off the meeting, has it been successful? What are some results of that? Do you know?
Yes, Robert, it has been. I've had two people, I won't say where, they called me. I was asked by the resident officer to handle it when they're supposed to handle it, but that's okay. I'm a big boy. I can take care of it because I knew the MPO that was involved.
Okay.
I had a personal relationship in the sense that a friend, I would say a friendly relationship, not a personal relationship. And we had a one-on-one. I told him, listen, I know what your message is, but you're going about it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Okay. You want people to work with you? This is the way you got to treat them. Not the way it was recorded, not recorded, but it was written down that you said. And to their credit, they cleaned up their act a little bit, and I haven't heard boof since. And the two members that I was contacted by, they're happy right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think that's the message of today. I think that when we're talking about being disrespected on a Zoom meeting, that you log off, you wait for that phone call, you say you're not going to tolerate that, and then the last point in your article, you turn right around right then and fill out the Telecon Improvement Program form and send it to headquarters.
That's right. I mean, you have that when he or she calls you and you have that conversation, you know whether you're going to fill out that form or not. Maybe in that conversation there was an apology. They may say they won't do it again. Time will tell. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, you may not need to fill out that form.
You may not have to.
If it does, if you see the behavior doesn't change, at least towards you, or it's more respectful, then you got to do what you got to do, and NAFSA is going to be there behind you 100%.
That's exactly right. Well, we are almost out of time, Dee. Can you believe the time went by that quick?
Well, when you're having fun, who cares what time it is?
Tell me, this will be airing on June the 21st. You've got a big event coming up.
I have Northeast Region training coming up. Normally it's held by Mr. Rome himself. Unfortunately, he passed. So I got some big shoes to fill. We got some exciting topics to talk about. And it's in Puerto Rico on the 27th, 28th. Unfortunately, now the training has been closed. We've reached the room commitment, and we've got the food together. We got the speakers together, and it's going to be a hell of a training session.
That's going to be great, and I can't wait to hear the results of that. Dee, thank you so much for being on the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Good luck to you on your training out there in Puerto Rico.
I appreciate it, Robin, and to all those who are listening, register. Don't wait for my emails to tell you to listen to Robert. Register.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Dee.
You're welcome. Take care, my friend.
All righty. Summer is here, and what better way to celebrate and to beat the heat than with a delicious serving of ice cream? That's right, Brian Wagner, did you hear that? We are excited to announce that we will be offering ice cream every day throughout June, July, and August to continue our celebration of 100 years of service. Stop by and treat yourself to a little taste of summer and enter for a drawing for a Ninja Creamery machine at the end of our celebration. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union. People helping people since 1925. And for our second cup today, I want to remind all members of Branch 32, you have your June monthly meeting. That's coming up on June the 24th, and it's held at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. The time of the meeting starts at 6 p.m. It ends at 7 p.m. We would love to see every single one of you there. And if that's not possible, call 911. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's only the second cup that I wanted to mention. Also, if you wanted a shirt, Branch 32, if you wanted a Branch 32 shirt, you need to get that order form in before June the 30th. The form is on our website, napsbranch32.org. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. My thanks to Dee Perez for sharing his insight into the Telecon improvement program and a strategy that seems to be working up there in his area. So I encourage you to adopt that. And I also encourage you to let me know where you're listening from. I haven't heard from a branch in a while. What branch are you listening from? Be sure to send that to me at SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com. All right, that's going to do it for today. And remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.